popularly known as AII, and has been operating and supporting startups in various sectors for more than a decade and continue hand-holding startups at different levels right away from pre-incubation, commercialization to acceleration and further investment support. Till now, AII has helped and supported more than 300 plus startups and invested in more than 55 plus startups from its investment vehicle, popularly known as Amity Capital Ventures (ACV). AII is supported by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Niti Aayog under its Atal Innovation Mission, and Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology under its MSH initiative. AII has more than 17 virtual and physical centers in India and 7 abroad. Let me give a quick brief introduction about our guest. So he is a marketing consultant to a number of startups. Earlier, he was the CMO at MobiKwik and Vcash and was responsible for driving growth at the company. A startup expert, Daman has extensive experience in driving user acquisition, marketing, and growth for leading companies in India. Earlier, he was leading India operation for Line suite of apps, where he was also responsible for strategy, growth, marketing, and developing unique offerings for the company. His early assignments include leading telecom business development for Infosys in the UK and North Indian states for Nokia. Daman has co-founded a company in the education space and another startup in the content and media space. Daman has scaled up multiple apps to 30 plus million active users in the country. Daman is an ISB alumni and has done his engineering from NIT Rourkela. Without taking much of your time, let's start our today's guest speaker, Mr. Daman Soni, and listen his insights on growth hacking for startups. Mr. Daman, we are extremely excited to hear your thoughts and interact with you during this session today. Meanwhile, participants, in case of any questions during the session, may use the chat box for asking the same, and we will take a few of them as per the time limitations. Over to you, Daman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Great to be here. It's a big honor for me to address all the folks out here. So, first of all, over my course of career, I've made a huge number of mistakes. Okay, and because of those mistakes, I've had a good amount of learning. The main aim here is to take you through some of my journeys and some of my learnings, so that you guys don't have to make the same mistakes, and you guys can grow your startups, get early traction. The way we are going to do this is I have a presentation. I'll take you through some frameworks which will be very interesting and attractive to people who are running their own startups or who are looking after the marketing function in their startups. It doesn't matter whether your startup has raised funds or hasn't raised funds or is sitting on a ton of money. We've all been there. I've seen all these situations, and obviously the marketing tactics, they change uh, uh, basis what the what the funding is, what the product market fit is. So without further uh, the presentation, let me just share my screen. Just a second. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir, the screen is visible.
Okay, fine. Great. So before we enter, I just wanted to mention I write a blog. It's narcissistically located at damansoni.com, wherein I write all about growth marketing for startups. feel free to go there and look at actionable insights. I promise that there's no faff over there. It's just helping everyone solve their day-to-day marketing problems and their marketing strategies. Fine, let's get into this. So this is what a typical growth funnel looks like, right? For a B2C or a B2B startup. There is acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. This has been the typical framework for all us marketeers for setting our metrics, setting our goals, and strategic growth conversations with the business leaders. So we'll just quickly go through each of these things. So what is acquisition? Acquisition is basically nothing but getting new users into the platform. And they can be either organically or wherein they come by virtue of you developing a good brand or some excitement with the users or your prospective users, or they can come from paid marketing, wherein you run a lot of acquisition campaigns on Google, Facebook, Insta, whatever new medium you find. After acquisition, once the users come onto the platform, activation part of the funnel is where you get the user to register and discover the product and start consuming the product. And so this requires a lot of onboarding, a lot of marketing strategies here, deal with hand-holding the customer to make sure he discovers your value proposition, your product, and your service. Once the user is activated, we want the user to keep coming back again and again and purchasing more goods from us and more services from us. Hopefully spend a lot more money with us if he likes the services. And this is what is called retention. Okay, and retention, in my opinion, is the new acquisition. It is far easier to retain a user than to spend money and get a user onto the platform who spends money on your platform. Because a person who has already made it into the retention part of the funnel trusts your brand, has probably brought something from the brand, or if you're Facebook or something, he's experienced your product. And if you engage him well enough and you continue to keep solving the user's problem, the user will be retained, right? And he'll keep purchasing. And there are ample studies behind why one should focus on retention rather than just acquisition. And a lot of the news reports that we read is some app is trending on the Google Play Store. I'm in the top 5 apps of the country. It doesn't matter, because Google trends apps which have a certain velocity of installs. So even though you are in the top 10 apps of the country, because you obviously are spending a lot of money, and you lose nearly 80% of your users by the end of the month, you wasted all that money. I would rather retain those 80% of the users than to trend on the Google Play Store. And retention is far economical to do than to do a user acquisition, and we'll talk a bit more about that. And then there's a referral. So obviously, if a user likes your product and is using a product, you would want to share this product understanding with his friends, his family, so on and so forth. Once you're deep in the funnel, there are again a lot of marketing strategies and tactics that come in, wherein we get the user to refer. And this is just not a simple referral what we've seen predominant, wherein I give a user 100 rupees and refer to us and he'll refer our product. I have run referral programs where we have not spent a single rupee per month, and we've got over 5,000 referred users on a daily basis. Okay, and how do you configure a referral campaign is very important, and when do you do it is also very important. You want to do it as close as to the aha moment of the app. Then there is revenue. Obviously, when the user's gone through all this, you want to keep increasing the revenue, and you want to keep ensure that the user keeps hitting the money button. What if I told you that everything that I've mentioned till now is all history? This is how we used to do marketing. We used to look at it in a very linear format. We used to think that this is a typical user journey, and if we get into the revenue part of the funnel, we are sorted. As marketers, he's done retention, he's done referral, we're totally sorted. But that's not the case today. Uh, Today, marketing has evolved. The growth in startups has evolved because we've understood, while this funnel helps us with one framework, but probably it is not the ideal framework in today's world. So what we've done is we've moved on to growth loops. What does this mean? This means anything that we do in marketing, we want to make it a compounding engine. We want to ensure that if we get in a user, how many more users is that new user going to get along with him? If a user has spent $1 with us, how many follow-on dollars he will spend with us by that one action that we've got him to do. So basically, the way we look at it at this is, we get a new user or an existing user, we get him to do an action. That action results in an output, which again gets us a new user, or that new user to again perform that action. So we as marketeers now look at starting to create growth loops in every part of the funnel, right? If I am spending money to get a new user, is my referral engine strong enough to ensure that for every one user, for every 10 users that are joining my platform, there are 2 referral users that are coming in? So the input over here is the new user joining. The action is the new user referring 10 of his friends, and the output is out of those 10, 2 more friends are joining. So what happens now is my marketing strategies are just not stopping at, okay, I have to get new users. I will not have one person in my team whose just job is to get new users. That person's job will also to ensure that how many new users that existing new user is getting, right? Let's take some examples. I'm sure a lot of you have seen Pinterest. Uh, it's a site. It's quite a visually appealing site. And what does Pinterest do? Suppose I'm browsing on the net, I find something very attractive visually. I want to share it with my friends. I go and pin it on my Pinterest board with a certain amount of text which is gleaned off from where I'm pinning it. Moment I have pinned that, Pinterest has configured a site in such a way that the SEO engine kicks in place. It tags all the stuff that are put on the site with the right metadata, with the right headers. And the next time the Google engine is crawling, it crawls all that and puts it and makes it available to Google search, so that tomorrow when someone else is searching for, let's say, a new Pepsi can, which I saw I posted over there, and someone searches for Pepsi, Pinterest comes up, and the user goes on to Pinterest and sees, oh, this is a very visually appealing site, so even I should contribute to it. So the next time I see something, even I'll start pinning to it. So this is what a growth loop is. Imagine if Pinterest had split up the marketing into entirely 2 different divisions, where one division's work was only to, what happened here? Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So imagine if Pinterest had just asked users to come onto the platform, and they're not configured their SEO so that new users can come in as quickly as possible. And that would have been a separate marketing initiative. The whole thing wouldn't have tied down together. Today, Pinterest can estimate that for every 10 new users that are coming onto the platform, how many pieces of content are being created, and how many of those content pieces will have a probability of getting into the first page of the Google search. So that is what has, building, what that was building up traffic. So more users, more posts, better SEO, more users. So that whole circle gets completed. What is Google doing? Every time, so Google wants more and more people to search, right? And people will use Google if it's giving out the right search result. So Google's algorithm also takes into the fact that when Daman search for something, and if he is consistently looking at a particular And there are like 100 of other ones who've gone onto Google and searched for, let's say, marketing automation, and they're typically clicking the fifth link on the page. Google understands, okay, this is more relevant, to the user, irrespective of what the other four links have written. So let me push this to the first link. And this is done in an automated way. So that when the sixth person comes, if his probability of finding that first link relevant is going to be higher. Now imagine if Google had not done this. Its algo only took into the fact that the SEO on the site is done very well, and they've checked all the right boxes in terms of site loading, in terms of content, but they had not taken the user feedback. Then its marketing engine would have gone for a toss. So a person who's looking at Google site traffic has to also ensure that a complete loop is taken care of. So what did Flipkart do? Every time someone buys a product, the Flipkart recommendation engine kicks in, and it shows you that product right up front. Or if I have to look at another way, Flipkart also pushes you a lot to fill in reviews, right? What is Flipkart's business? Its business is to sell products on its marketplace, and some of the things that really drive purchase online are user reviews, are recommendations. So Flipkart has invested a lot in this over the years. It's taken them a lot of time, but right now they are at a decent maturity state wherein when a new user comes in, so the growth loop works like this. A user comes into Flipkart to purchase. Now we are assuming the user acquired already. He does the purchase, which is the action. And as a part of the action, I want him to fill in I want to fill him a review. If he fills the review, very good. If he doesn't, that product goes into a recommendation engine basis an algo, and the output is a new user when he's coming to search for a particular product, finds that product soon and buys, and that completes the loop, right? Similarly, Paytm has done a lot of stuff like this. InShorts is an interesting thing. InShorts has if you've gone to InShorts and if you've tried sharing a story, they were the first ones in India to actually attach the screenshot with a text message when you're forwarding that story. Okay, so what happens in a WhatsApp scenario is that you've got only the image and you've got the text. So the size of the image reduces. So that makes sharing far easier. So now the loop is a user reads the story, a user performs the share action, and the output is a new user comes to the story. So the share that they do on WhatsApp that you get, it has a link to InShorts, not just the screenshot. So that has built an engine for InShorts to get more and more new users as a result of the content that they're creating. So now, if you go back and if you look at the original growth funnel, right? If I just take InShorts, I will just take referral as an action. And if a marketer is just in charge of referral, he might just put a referral link, in the hamburger menu, or you might think of referral as a very linear problem. Referral is a loop problem. You have to ensure that a person referred shares the content so that a new user comes in. There's a higher probability of a user coming onto InShorts via a content being shared rather than a person saying, download this app. Okay, and that's how they've built their whole referral engine. So net, what is the difference between the two? When a marketer talks growth funnel, or a founder says growth funnel, he'll say, okay, let's figure out how to get 100 new users. But when a marketer starts thinking growth loops, he says, okay, let's figure out a way to get 100 users in the week 1, and from those 100 users we get 20 users in the week 2, and from those 20 users we get 5 users in week 3. And now let's figure out a growth process, not a tactic, a growth process wherein growth becomes a compounding engine. If I just attach 3 more zeros across each one of them, you kind of see that the numbers become pretty attractive, right? I don't have to spend for the next 20 and for the next 5 users. That is something which is given. I know that in a growth funnel, I was optimizing for just getting 100 users, but now with the same money, I'm optimizing to get 125 users. And we'll go into how do we go about doing this. Okay. Here's another framework. How do we run marketing, right? In early days, when marketing began, it was a medium wherein the TV spoke to you, the radio spoke to you, to the user, and uh, you know, life went on. We saw the brand on a large screen, where we saw news, and we started trusting the brand. Today is not the case. Today, a company doesn't build a brand; the users build the brand because there are conversations taking place simultaneously in a lot of areas, right? And one second, I'm just getting some questions here.
Sir, some participants are having issues viewing the screen. So if you could end the screen share and start again.
Are you going to stop share?
Yeah, stop share and then share your screen again. So probably that would fix the issue.
Let me just exit full screen mode and visible now?
It's visible. Other participants can drop in the message in the chat if anybody is facing issues.
Okay, I think it's visible. Okay, fine. So I'll keep it in this format now. Okay. Okay. So we were at this is the second set of this is the second framework that I wanted to talk about today. Yeah. Okay. So how do we run marketing today? Today, because we have digital as a very core medium for us, the medium speaks to us as soon as we execute the marketing. Today, if I run an ad campaign on Facebook, within 2 hours, I start getting all the information. How many people have seen my ad? How many have clicked? What's the conversion rate? Once they come onto the landing page, I know how many people have bounced, how many folks have filled up a form, how many folks have tried to pay for a product but have fallen midway. Okay. So because I have so many information coming at to me simultaneously, my point is, why do you want to throw a lot of money at the problem initially? We have now moved to doing experiments. So a typical marketing organization, whether it's small or even in an MNC, we've all gone towards experiments. And there's a whole way to run this experiment, right? I mean, if we think our way through to run these experiments, that's when we'll be able to know what is working and what is not, where are we failing, and how can we succeed. You'll run a typically, if you run an experiment, 9 out of 10 times you will fail, and that's totally okay. But imagine this 10 years ago. If you were failing at your job, the first thing your boss would tell you is that you're not a good worker. Today, that's not the case. Today, if someone is failing, we know that that person is learning, right? And obviously, we want to fail. We want to fail right. We don't want to fail down. And I'll talk about that. So to ensure that we fail right, there's a process to how we run these experiments, okay? And here's how we do it. We have an aim. We have an initial aim saying that, okay, I want to increase the traffic to my website. And we have a hypothesis that today I do not have enough traffic because you list 1 or 2 reasons. You say probably my people are not aware of my brand, or people don't like my brand, or there is huge competition, or I am not solving a user's problem. So you run an experiment. You say, okay, to ensure that people are not understanding, probably the hypothesis when they come onto my page, they do not transact. Let's take transaction as an example. Say like I want to increase transactions. The hypothesis I'm getting a lot of traffic, but people are not transacting because they're not understanding the product. So my experiment will be that I will change my landing page to ensure that I explain the product in a better way, or I talk to a particular emotion of the user to explain to him. And what does this entail? This entails me changing my landing page. It entails me putting the buy button right up front, so on and so forth. I run the experiment for a day or two, probably more. And then I get data. You have to ensure that you're able to get the data, right? If you're not getting data, then we're in trouble again. And once we get the data, we have to look at it in a very dispassionate way. The experiment can fail or the experiment can pass. The fact that the experiment has failed at past is a function of your experiment, not a function of your hypothesis. Your hypothesis have to be pure, and we'll talk about each one of them. So, basis your the data that speaks to you, you'll analyze whether the experiment has passed or failed, and then you come to a conclusion. Okay, this has passed. People have understood our product better. Let's double down on this. Let's create 10 more landing pages like that and get on with it. Or if the experiment has failed, you say, okay, probably this is not the reason. Let's come up with the next hypothesis. Or probably the way we ran the experiment was wrong. Right? So let's get on to how do we run experiments. Okay. First of all, when you're creating an aim, now we're getting into the depths of into the trenches of marketing. Okay, this is what we do for growth at startups. We have a clear aim. Okay, a good example of an aim would be I want to increase sign up conversion by personalizing the landing page based on city. Okay, let's say I'm MobiKwik and I want to do my electricity bill recharge. People who log in from Delhi, I'll show them Delhi State Electricity Board. People who log in from uh, uh, Karnataka, I will show them. From Bangalore, I'll show them Bangalore State Electricity Board, so on and so forth. Okay. A bad example of a name is maybe I just want to increase sign up conversion. Now, this is, can you understand? Increase sign up conversion, just say increase sign up conversion is at a very helicopter level. I have to design an experiment. I have to say that, okay, if I say just increase sign up conversion, I can do 10 of things, right? I can reduce the price. I can give things free. I can do a lot more things. So we need to ensure that our aim is crystal clear and very granular. Otherwise, the experiment that you design will go nowhere. And by the way, just to give an idea, in a typical week, my team we typically run 15 to 20 experiments. Each person is managing 2 to 3 experiments, right? So there's a one pager that every person submits, and then we figure out which experiment we want to run and which we don't. And mind you, every experiment doesn't cost money, and we'll come to that. Most importantly, you should be able to measure the thing you're aiming to improve. If you do not have an analytics layer in your app or your site, you will not be able to know whether your experiment has passed or failed. You need to establish first a baseline. Say right now my conversion rate is 15%. Okay. After doing this, what will be my conversion rate? This is what we come to the hypothesis. We've created the aim, and now we say, okay, if we do the experiment, what will happen? Okay, and this is the hypothesis that we're saying. For folks in Bangalore, we show them some imagery of Bangalore. For folks in Delhi, we'll probably show them Qutub Minar and Taj Mahal because it's recallable. People think it's a ghar ki baat hai, and they'll get onto it. The moment you're familiar with an image, you start getting into that. You start interacting with the brand. So we say, okay, our hypothesis is by adding geo-targeted imagery on our landing pages, we expect geo-targeting campaign sign-up conversion rate to increase by 10%. Okay. Now, to be able to do this, you require multiple things to come together. Okay, I'll come to that later. And first, let's go over the bad example. A bad example is if my hypothesis is if I do at this experiment, my sign-ups will increase. This is two-way. There are no metrics. There is no baselining. There is no target. So it's like a binary question, right? You remember your exams. It's either a yes or a no answer. Moment you get an answer wherein the experiment has failed and someone answers maybe, means your experiment is not done. There is no gray area over here. Either the experiment has passed or the experiment has failed. So when you write the exam questionnaire, you have to write it in such a way that you can get a yes or no answer. Okay. So now to be able to run this experiment for this hypothesis, I need to ensure that my tech allows me to change the image based on the user's IP address, which tells me which city he's coming from. So I have to first talk to the tech guys. First, can we do something like this? If not, they have to develop a certain amount of tech. They'll have to put in a few pieces of code for them to enable that. The second is, I need to be able to measure this. So then I have to go to my analytics team saying that, do you have the right code on the app which also tags the city name from where the traffic is coming, so that I can measure the conversion rate by the city? Or this is just, or we're not capturing the city at all, and we'll get the overall conversion has increased, and then we'll not know what worked, because now you're running 4 cities. I can do an A/B testing on each city also. For Delhi, for example, I can show India Gate or I can show Qutub Minar. Which images work better? I can do all that kind of stuff also. So how do we run the experiment? Okay, this is where the fun starts. So this will tell us what all needs to be done. So we have a landing page wherein all the traffic is coming. So we say, okay, we're going to make a copy of the landing page for the city. In landing page B, we'll put in some JavaScript logic so that we can pull the IP address of the client, which is the tech guys will help us. And using the IP lookup database, which is available free of cost, we will match the client's IP to regional location. This again, the tech guys can do at the backend. And we'll build a list of IP locations that we will target for Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore. And we'll build a logic to switch the landing page images based on the city location. And we'll release the page. Now we go back to tech as marketers and say, and tech guys are obviously very busy saving the world. So we have to ask them for their time to be able to develop stuff like this so that we can be able to run the experiment. And how do we measure this? So there's a tool called Optimizely, which can help you do A/B testing on these pages. You can use that, but there are tons of other tools available. These all pay-as-you-go tools. So today that's another fun thing, right? A lot of these tools are available so that marketers can run all these experiments pretty easily. We don't have to suffer that we have to build all these tools in house. In fact, only yesterday a friend of mine was telling me that he's building a whole analytics engine for his website. I said, this is not required. You can just go and get a tool for 5,000 rupees a month, and it will do all the heavy lifting for you. And their business is just analytics. And in this case, we decided to use Google Analytics, which again is free of cost. We make sure that the analytics are getting the right variables from us for the city, and then you go on and test it. So we've had very clear aim. We've devised a hypothesis, and we've created an experiment. Right? Now let's see what has happened to this experiment. Okay. Like I said, in the analysis phase, we're not concerned. So right now, at this point of thing, we should not be biased. Either the data will support or disapprove our prediction. And what we need to do is we need to remember our original hypothesis. Did our conversion rate increase by 10% for geo-targeted campaigns? Very, very easy. It can be 9%, it can be 8.5%, it can be 15%. But we'll know for a fact. Sometimes there's good failure and there's bad failure. Bad failure is me trying the same experiment after 30 days, even though this experiment has failed and I've not done anything new. Right? So I'll talk about how to avoid that. So we measure the result against the baseline metric and we compare the conversion rate for each city. And let's say we see 3 out of 4 cities are doing very well. Then we say, okay, probably we didn't, optimize the page well for the 4th city. And if we do that right, probably we can figure that out. Or it can also be another hypothesis that the users in that city are not, they don't want to, buy from us. So let me give an example. at Milk Basket, we consistently saw that the average order value in Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida was very high as compared to Hyderabad. And we knew that people in Hyderabad don't eat lesser than what people in Delhi and Gurgaon eat, right? So we said, is our operations bad in that city? So we did an operations comparison. Then we said, is it that our app is not showing the right product? What we realized is the cuisine was different in both these cities. We had not stocked up on FMCG goods and on grains, which people in Hyderabad prefer more than people in Delhi, right? And that was when we addressed that hypothesis, that's when things started to get better for us. So when you do an analysis, you have to go through all this and figure out what's working, what's not, basis the data that you have. And once you have, after you do the analysis, then you have the conclusion at hand. Right. This is how we are going to go about this. Now, like I said, we at any given point of time to drive growth in startups, we are running hundreds of experiments. If I'm running around 20 experiments a week, by the end of the month, I'm easily running around 80 to 100 experiments. So the way we do this is we write the hypothesis, we see which part of the funnel it is addressing, whether it is going to address acquisition or whether it's going to address retention or referral and so on and so forth. And then we also say, does this experiment require budget or no? Budget means actual money, or budget means time money. Taking up tech resources time is probably the most expensive resource over there, because it's not just money over there, it's the person can also be building something for than if you tell him to run an experiment for us. So you have to figure out how much of a budget is required, or how easy, or how much of an so basically how much of an effort is required to run the experiment, and what is the impact of the experiment, right? Once the experiment is run, we put in the results, whether it's pass or fail, and we share the product with we share the results with the product marketing and the business teams, so that we don't run these experiments again under the same environment. We maintain a whole board for this. So what happens is, over a period of time, people leave the company, new people come in, a new person may come in and say, okay, why aren't you all bidding on this Google Pay for this particular keyword? And if you run the experiment, that's very good. But let's say the person who run the experiment has left. If he's not codified this into an Excel or a document, the new person may end up running the same experiment, and you know the result, right? We failed last time. So you may end up spending the money all over again. So it's very beneficial to have a failure book in your company. Every company that I've joined or I've run, I've always had a failure book, which is a list of hundreds of experiments which failed and a few experiments which passed, right? So a new person, when he comes in, this is mandatory reading for that person, saying that, okay, these are all the marketing experiments that we've done. This is what brought us good, and this does not. And this does is it helps the newcomer in the company to hit the ground running, rather than learn the whole thing. So a very common thing that I've seen is your paid user acquisition. Campaigns are set up in a certain way, and the user comes in, the new campaign manager comes in and starts running the campaign in the same way. And very soon you realize that you're not getting growth. It's in fact just plateaued, because the new campaign manager doesn't know what experiments were run earlier. Okay, and he's probably performing the same experiments all over again. If he knows that, and I'm assuming both of them are at the are adept at their trade. So for the second person to be far more effective than the earlier person, it's beneficial that the person knows what experiments have been done earlier. Okay, so this is how we run marketing in startups. Basically, we think of growth funnels, we run a lot of experiments, and we keep seeing results from experiments. So growth is never a straight line. Growth is this bunch of hundreds of experiments which come together to drive growth simultaneously. There is no silver bullet saying that if I have done this, I will get 100x growth. If I do college activation, I'll get no. If you get college activations, people may know of your brand, but if you have not optimized your landing pages, if you have not optimized your messaging, you will not get growth. Okay. This slide I've just put for some ideas, how to create a growth board. For example, on acquisition, we said, okay, let's create an educational video to onboard new users. And we're not going to market this, we're going to put this on the site. So there's an initial budget required to create the video. Give influencers who invite other influencers of our product a share of our sales initiated by them. Okay, this requires a small budget because there's a cost associated to give a share of our sales. Then very often the PS section is the first thing that is read in an email, because you read the heading, you read the first paragraph, and you scroll down. Okay, it's a good opportunity to put in your call to action or something extra or a discount at the end of your emailers. And this doesn't cost us anything, right? This is just a simple line of code that we just have to put over there. And the hypothesis is, so the aim is to drive conversions via email. The hypothesis is, if you put a CTA at the end of the email using a PS, our conversions will, our email conversions will improve by 2 to 3%. And to be able to run this, we don't need any help of tech. We just need to ensure that the link that we put there has a right analytics tracker built in, so that we can do the attribution, and we roll. And to be able to do A/B testing, we'll send this email to 50% of the users. We'll send it with the PS, and 50% will not send it with the PS. Or we'll divide the users into 3 groups: one with no PS, one with one particular messaging about a discount, and third with another thing. So let's see what works well. Okay, so now you have a multivariate testing going on with one experiment. Then retention. For example, you are a SaaS company, a B2B company. You have a trial period, but you have seen that a particular set of users who are very involved with the product, they have not bought it out. So they have not gone on the paid version. We give them a free trial experience. So we say, okay, if an engaged user, which means that the user has opened up our SaaS platform more than 10 times a month, if we extend his trial version 2 days before expiry by another 30 days, his conversion rate will improve by 5%. Okay, it doesn't cost, it costs us opportunity cost, but it doesn't cost us anything. Anyway, the user was going away. What does it require to do this? Hardly anything. We don't need any tech in this. We need to say that we need to send him an emailer saying that, okay, do you want a trial extension? He says yes. He clicks on the button, and the moment he clicks it, we either can do it using code or we manually extend it. Time, but we run a cron and run it, right? Use thank you pages for secondary action. Again, this doesn't cost us anything. Suppose you're an e-commerce site, and you've gone onto the cart, you paid, and you see a thank you page. Do an upsell over there. For example, at MobiKwik, we should do a very interesting thing. Whenever someone has paid his electricity bill, we would thank him and also tell him to recharge his phone. We could, because he's using MobiKwik from his phone, we knew what operator he was on because of his phone number, and we would show the operator logo and say click here to recharge it, for example, and the thank you page, so that he performs one more action. And our hypothesis was this will get us a revenue uplift of around 1%. So you see the numbers I'm talking very small, but if you are running 30 experiments, which 30 successful experiments, your revenue is increasing by 30% overall, right? Send a handwritten card to customers. Okay, now this is a very interesting example. Almost everyone will be in the room will be saying, boss, this is not scalable. Why should I even do this? So there was a question over there, how does a startup start getting its initial customers? How does a startup get its first 1,000 customers? For the first 1,000 customers, you are allowed to do things that do not scale. Treat your first 1,000 customers like VIP. Roll out the red carpet. You've got a new customer sign up. He's saying, okay, I'm ready to buy your subscription or I'm ready to buy a product. Handwrite, give a handwritten note to him. Folks who do this pretty well are cloud kitchens on Zomato. A new cloud kitchen is opened. You've happened to look them up on Zomato. You've ordered from them, and you get your food, and you get a nice card with it which says, "Thank you for ordering from us, from the founder." More often than not, you will talk about it to a friend. I'm talking about it right now. Some poor folks may post this on social media, right? So, but your first 1,000 customers have taken a leap of faith to try your product. They need to be treated a bit differently, and it's totally okay. From the 1,000 first customer, stop sending handwritten cards, no problem. But this should be another category: things that cannot scale. What are the things that you can do? So, for example, Uber, their first 1,000 customers for them to sign up. Travis and gang actually stood at junctions, talking to people and getting them to download the app. Obviously, Uber can't get millions of users just by doing that, right? So, but the first initial customers to get traction, you'll have to think of the limit is that there are no limits, right? It depends on what your enthu is to go and market to the users. So let's talk about the revenue part of the funnel, for example. Don't force account creation. Sometimes I see an ad on Instagram for a t-shirt. I want to go and buy that. I click on the ad, I end up on the website, I see a shirt, I put it in the cart, and I say checkout. Do not ask the user to create his account at that point in time. That guy is giving you money. He's trusting your new brand. Take it. Okay. And then, and after he's bought it from you, then send him an email, boss, you want to register with us so that we can send you, so that we have all your details on hand. Don't do that. Keep that at a later point in time. Okay. Try something like that. Rule of 100. This is an interesting rule. This is a messaging rule. Anything below 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees, for example, not even 100, show it as a discount. Anything above 100 rupees, show it as a hard value of discount. So anything, let's say 80 rupees, they're making it to 60 rupees, show that you are giving him around 35% discount, right? Anything which is if it's 110 and you're making it to 100, say I'm giving you 10 rupees off. Try this and see what works for you. For some e-com sites and for some products, this works pretty well. Suppose you are a productivity tool, okay, and you've seen that there's a particular feature in the tool for paid users which makes them power users of your tool. What you can do is unlock this feature for a user for a limited period of time for free users. Okay, and your hypothesis is because the paid users find this feature so engaging, if we unlock it for free users, probably X% of the users might get converted into paid users, and that may so these are the experiments that you run. Okay, so these are not the only ideas. I mean, for example, my growth list of experiments, I think, is touching over 1,000 right now. I always maintain a list with whichever company I'm going, saying, okay, this is an experiment I tried, and I put it as an experiment. As a part of the funnel, I figured I just randomly picked up these 10 from them just to put them here. And these are all successful experiments, by the way, which I put over here. So you might want to try some of them if you like any of them. So as a marketeer, as a startup owner, it's always important for you to have these tricks in the hand. Moment you see something, some growth hack happening in some other place, write it down and keep it, and figure out how you can run it in an experiment format. Don't come back to the office and say, okay, yeah, let's just do this. It's working for them. It's working for them. No, no. You want to do that? That's fine. But put a hypothesis, put a name. Otherwise, what will happen is, if you put too much resources mentally to go after one particular experiment without the result, you've already committed to the result, whether it fails or not. And this is a fallacy that I have seen in a lot of brands running TV campaigns. So here's what happens. A brand decides to do a TV campaign, and a typical TV campaign with a reasonable GRP costs nothing short of 10 crores. If you've decided to spend 10 crores, and in TV, unfortunately, that medium, you have to spend that much, otherwise it doesn't make a dent. If you spend 10 crores, you've already declared the experiment a success. No one wants to make a 10 crore ka mistake, right? But digital as a medium allows you to make mistakes. So leverage that. Don't be tied on to the fact that something worked for Paytm, oh, then we should come back and this movie could just copy that and just figure out and do it. No. We will do it. We'll release it 10 days later. If your business fails because of a 10-day delay, means you're not in a business anymore. Right? No business should die within 10 days. Okay. So I think that's all I had to talk to you guys about. Basically introduce two frameworks. One is the framework of growth loops, and the second is the framework of experiments and how to run growth hacks. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I'm going to start taking questions. I've got some 15-20 questions from earlier, and I'm going to go through some of those questions right now. Give me a second.
Sir, if you want, I can help you with the questions. I have it ready.
Okay, I've noted them down, so I'll just go through some of the questions. I've got a ton of questions on how to raise funds. So since this is not a VC masterclass, I'm not going to go through those questions. I will rather go through questions which are around marketing and which are around growth hacks and growth. Okay, so that I can make this as relevant to you. And so here it is. How do I reach customers with minimum fund? And I think this is a question from a early stage bootstrap startup. I think we've answered a part of that question. Is one is do things that don't scale. Build trust in your brand. On my website, if you go, you'll see a blog which tells you 10-15 ways to build trust with a newly launched startup. You launch today, how do you build trust with your brand? None of them cost any money, right? And there are multiple ways to do that. You got to be scrappy about it. Okay. How do I approach investors and trust them not to steal your idea? So if people could build businesses just by listening to an idea, I mean, everyone would have been a millionaire. I think we give too much bhav to the idea and not as much bhav to the execution and the grit of the entrepreneur. So if you've told someone your idea, rest assured your idea is not getting copied. Okay, and there is no idea which is like a winner take all in a matter of 10 days. Again, like I said, if someone copies your idea also, and if you're a better execution guy, you'll anyway beat that person. Here I want to mention something is when you come up with a startup idea and when you think about how will I grow this whole startup, the first thing that you should be thinking about is not the product. The first thing you should be thinking about is the distribution. How will you sell it? Do you have channels which you own? Do you have a secret sauce in which you can sell thousands of your products and services? Is paid acquisition your distribution? And if that is the case, have you raised 10 million in pre-seed? So think about distribution first. Second, think about tightening your product. Third, think about revenue model, tightening your revenue model, that is. Fourth, think about operations. Fifth, think about competition. That's the last thing you should think about. And then sixth is whatever else. This is a framework. This is not something which I made up right now. This is the framework in a book called Blitz Scaling. And I recommend that book because that book is all about scaling startups, scaling companies, and how do you go about doing that. And some of the frameworks that I've talked about, they are mentioned over there. So try reading that. Okay. What went wrong with MobiKwik or other wallets that Paytm became hugely popular that they didn't? So I think Paytm had two benefits. One is it had the benefit of timing. When demonetization happened, Paytm was the only wallet which had a QR code in place. MobiKwik did not, Freecharge did not. They were just experimenting with that. But when demonetization happened, Paytm had a lot of QR codes already in the market, and they had to so they knew how to get that thing done. They just had to step on it and get that. The second thing is Paytm also had a lot of capital to build their brand. So doing a financial services startup, you have to build a lot of trust because you're keeping the users' money. And building trust at that scale, you need to go ATL, you need to go via TVCs. And Paytm obviously had a good amount of capital to be able to run a lot of TV ads, work with the Indian cricket team, to build a lot of that trust. Besides that, they also innovated on the product very fast. They came up with a lot of product innovations. Not that MobiKwik did not innovate. There was a lot of good innovations on the MobiKwik side also. But Paytm, like I said, at that point in time, had cracked distribution. So they could easily scale up. So today, Paytm is a distribution platform. They have a set of users who are willing to use Paytm to do payments. Rather, Paytm can handle the money. On top of that, Paytm is now layering it up with any and every financial services because the user already trusts Paytm with their money. So they've launched Paytm Money for buying mutual funds. They've started Paytm e-Gold, wherein you can buy gold in a Demat form. They started selling insurance. They started getting into loans. So it's become a distribution platform, as opposed to a new startup who's saying, okay, I want to get into lending. The startup's first problem is how do I get the first 100 users to lend to? But Paytm already has that, right? And they know the transaction history also, so they know whether they'll return the money or not, right? Okay. A startup needs good investment of funds in the growth stage, and good management of cash flows is critical to conserve funds and minimizing dependence on external funding. What are the different areas to focus and optimize cash flows in the growth stage? This is a very contextual question. I will need far more information for me to be able to do any justice to this answer. Predominantly because how the customer is getting, how the company is getting growth, what is its P&L, all that is pretty unknown. So I'm just going to pass on this question right now. How do I generate a lead for the startup? Again, this is a distribution problem. Leads come into startup from 4 different ways. One is organic leads. Organic leads are a function of someone entering a particular problem in the Google bar, because that's where a lot of the journey starts. And does your product show up? Now, this is a function of SEO. This can be a function of brand. If I'm looking for soap, do I write good soap or do I write Dove? Right? So it's a bit of both. So this is organic growth. The second is paid growth. In paid growth is I can buy, for example, Google search ads. When I search for soap, the first link that should be shown is Dove soap, for example. Okay. The third is product. Product also helps you drive leads. So if someone has come onto your platform, how are you articulating the reason? Are you doing enough A/B testing to ensure that your conversion rate for leads is increasing? So it's just not a matter of getting the user onto your platform, but also Are you able to, does your lead capture form have 20 fields or does it have 2 fields? Right? Stuff like this will start uh, uh, getting an engine going. The fourth, which is something which I love, is partnerships. And partnerships is something which a lot of entrepreneurs miss out on. And I think this is a huge growth driver. Let me give an example. In MobiKwik, we wanted the biggest use case for wallets after recharge and bill payment is cabs. So Paytm had Uber. MobiKwik did not have Uber. MobiKwik did not have Ola. So we went to Uber. Uber said that it's going to take a lot of time for us to integrate you. Everything happens from San Francisco. Stakeholders are there, and we were like, okay, that's a path which we don't know is going to be successful or not. So we went to Ola. Ola said they had Ola Money, so they were not interested in getting MobiKwik as a payment platform. So we convinced Ola, saying that if we can't come into your app, why don't you come into the MobiKwik app? Wherein an Ola cab can be booked from within MobiKwik, and in that case, the payment will be done using MobiKwik. And Ola found that very interesting because they would get access to a new user base. MobiKwik was very interested because they would start getting access to cabs. This partnership hack, with all it took us was tech bandwidth to get this thing developed. This hack got us over 15,000 transactions a day, a month down the line of going live. So partnerships is another key area which I think startups need to focus on. Okay, next question. There is always a major dependency on SEO and ads when it comes to marketing a brand. No? What are the other ways to position your brand better against the competition and drive growth? Okay, what stops you from making a chart of where you are better and the competition is not, and posting it on Quora, or posting it even on your payment page, showing a comparison between what you give versus others. So, for example, Slack. If you go to Slack's payment page, Slack easily shows you how much they're charging you, as opposed to how much you would get charged if you had to go for a messaging app, Dropbox, Google Docs, so on and so forth. So you can easily do something like that. Other than that, you can build trust with the brand in a number of ways, and again, none of them cost money. So I would not say so. SEO and ads is a dependency, but it is not the dependency. If you've got customers, start generating social proof. Start getting testimonials, video testimonials. Start posting that. You're a B2B company. Start showcasing those testimonials on your website. Start put a strip of an area into your website where all the media has covered you. And this is not just funding. This is where media has spoken positively about you. So there are plenty of ways for you to market your brand without just depending on paid user acquisition. Which industries need online advertising during this lockdown period? Any consumer who is online and looking for your product, or can experience your product, or you do not want the user to forget about your product when the lockdown ends, you guys need to do online marketing. And I think I've practically covered 80% of the areas in that. Barring travel, which is facing a lot of issues, travel and hospitality, I think every other company will need to stay relevant in the online realm. So, for example, Apple launched their latest iPhone first on TikTok. And can you imagine Apple not that Apple launching a phone without doing a press meet, a full page newspaper ad, taking up billboards in your city? But Apple's launched a new phone using TikTok. BMW has launched a new car online. So life is going on, right? You need to stay relevant to your users. You need to be able to give them solutions. You need to be able to talk to them, but don't bombard them. I mean, don't cross the line in terms of including into the private space. Okay, next question. Startup in itself is a very big challenge. Adding up to this, the present COVID-19 scenario, which is not going to end soon. How do you keep yourself motivated? Okay, this is a good question. So the way to, it also depends on what motivates you, right? And what gives your life meaning. I think if you set yourself targets in terms of personal targets, of learning, of well-being, of mental health, I think that keeps you motivated. For example, uh, I'm a marketing consultant. Uh, Not many people are spending on advertising these days. What am I doing? I spend over 7 hours learning. I don't know everything about marketing. I don't know everything about performance marketing, about digital marketing. I'm learning most of the days. And I have decided that anything new that I learn, I'm going to share that learning with others. Uh, so I've started creating a lot of content for people with no ulterior motive, just sharing my new learnings and codifying them. Like I said, I have over 1,000 experiments. I started putting them into packages and starting sharing with people. Again, these are ideas which I go and execute for companies. Why am I giving them out for free? It's going to help people, and they will ultimately need help from me in terms of running them in an efficient way. So to come back to your question, what keeps you motivated is you need to figure out what gives you happiness. You need to be thankful for people for all the good stuff that you have. If you're watching this webinar, you already are in the privileged part of the society, right? You have a lot to be grateful for, a lot to be thankful for. With that, I will end my gyan on that session, and I'll take some more questions which are in the chat box. Uh, Suppose customers say they are interested in buying my product and they never get back to me. In that case, what should I do? Oh, we have a wonderful solution for this. It's called retargeting and remarketing. And again, I've very recently written a blog on what are 10 different kind of 15 rather 15 different kind of retargeting that you can do. And this just doesn't mean that a person has come to your website and gone away. If let's say you're a B2B brand, a person has met you and says, okay, I want your product. How can you retarget it? You can create good content. You can create a newsletter and share that you're a thought leader in this segment. Right? You can share in the newsletter. You can also share customer testimonials. You can target him on LinkedIn with testimonial, with a video testimonial of people saying of your existing users who are saying that yes, this is a good company, it delivered value to me, and it's got a good ROI. So retargeting is something which you need to read upon to be able to get to them. At the end of the day, why are we doing retargeting? We are doing retargeting to drive him through his process of sales, right? There's attention, interest, desire, action, right? We're trying to get him as close to the action. So I'm sure if he's, I'm sure he's past the attention stage. He's in the interest and desire interest and desire phase. And users don't go through this linearly. They keep going up and down, and you need to keep, you need to figure out in your sales process how you want to do that. And having regular conversations with them, retargeting them, I think you can easily win them back. Okay. For a service-based, is there a method to calculate virality coefficient? How can we have virality and retention in the product? Oh yeah. So there is something what we call the K factor, which is the virality factor, which is the number of users that an existing user brings in, divided by the number of users. So there's ample literature on that, online. It is an equation. Can you put it that? And you need to figure out what is the virality coefficient for your company, and you'll be able to figure that using the data set that you have, and your aim should be to keep improving that. For a service-based bootstrapped startup, what do you think can be a good way to increase brand awareness among target audience, mostly new founders? Okay, I'm going to ignore the new founders part. so that this question addresses practically everyone, every company. How can I generate brand awareness? This is a brand awareness problem. This means that you're a new startup. People need to, one, understand what your brand stands for. Two, know what your brand delivers on. Okay. To be able to do that, there are tons of ways. Okay, you've got your website, you've got your emailers, you've got your notifications, you've got PR, you've got testimonials, you've got social media. So again, there's another blog that I've written. Go through that. It tells you around 10-15 ways of how to reach out to your target base without spending any money, and ensuring that you start building trust. Trust is not built by one or two interactions. A trust in the brand is built by multiple interactions. I need to hear it from my friends. I need to hear it from someone who's used your product. I need to hear it from my peers saying that, yes, this is a good product. So you'll have to have a multi-touch point strategy. I already launched a service in 3 locations, but it now takes to launch a new location, how to scale fast. This is again something which I need context on. I will not be able to answer this question because there are way too many variables in this question. I think, yeah, that's all the questions I have for now over here. If there are any other questions, the moderator can share that with me.
So for now, these are the only questions we have. We would like to share a small video. We've recently launched a COVID accelerator. We would like to show a small video.
Okay, go ahead.
So I would like to thank the speaker, Mr. Daman Soni, on behalf of Amity Innovation Incubator family, our President, Honorable Dr. Aseem Chauhan sir, our CEO, Mr. Ojasvi Babbar sir, and team members across various centers in India and abroad. Would like to thank you for sharing such valuable information and ideas about the innovations and growth hacking for startups. I'm sure startups and students who had witnessed the session today are feeling more motivated and enthusiastic. We expect your presence and interaction more frequently in the near future with the startups at various centers to help and guide them in their growth. Thank you for taking your time out for this session. Thank you, sir.
Amity's Coronavirus Response and Rebuilding Accelerator invites applications from startups, entrepreneurs, and innovators. Get access to funding and technology support, mentoring, infrastructure, and much more. Apply at amity.edu/AII, an initiative by Amity Innovation Incubator and Amity Capital Ventures, supported by Atal Innovation Mission and Invest India.